Hey guys, welcome back to Ben and Briggs channel. If you haven't been here before, we do product reviews, tutorials, and we have a live chat feature on our website to help you through your Broody 911s. Check it out at benandbrewing.com, lower left-hand corner, chat us up, we are happy to help. Today's video, we're actually revisiting the Tilt Hydrometer. We're gonna see how it's held up after 2 years of long-term use and how it compares to the other competitors on the market. Let's check it out. All right, so if you're not familiar with the Tilt Hydrometer, we did a review on it initially about a year or so ago. We will link that in the description below. Make sure you check that out after you finish watching this video. We initially bought the Tilt Hydrometer probably about 2 years ago, maybe a little less, when we were testing floating hydrometers because we wanted to kind of see what the best one was. The Tilt as an option was one of the most expensive ones on the market, and there were less expensive ones out there. We really wanted to determine kind of which was the best. So after our initial review, which we did probably a year ago or so, we wanted to follow up with kind of a long-term usage to see if our opinions have changed about the Tilt Hydrometer and the other ones that we reviewed initially. Make sure you stay tuned till the end of the video because we actually have a little tip/trick/tool that will help you when you're changing the battery on your Tilt, so check that out later. The first one that we picked up was the iSpindle, which is kind of a do-it-yourself floating hydrometer. You can get the kits fully assembled, but the least expensive option is to get them with all the PCB boards separated. You solder it all together, you calibrate it, and you kind of use it. And there's quite a bit to get it set up and working with the Wi-Fi and with all the interfaces and all the tracking stuff with it. But it is kind of a fun little journey to take, and I really enjoyed doing that. The one drawback with it was when I got this, I was still doing some of my beers in a carboy. This won't fit in the neck of a glass carboy, so that was kind of put a kibosh on that one. The next one that we tried was the Wrapped Pill by Kegland. Now, about the same size as the iSpindle, a little bit sleeker design, and it kind of looks like a pill, hence the name. And again, this is also Wi-Fi driven. The thing that I liked about the Wrapped Pill was it was a little bit more plug and play, a little bit easier to get set up. You still have to have a web interface in order to track and take readings from it, which you can do from your phone, but for me it was a bit clunky. Now, the Wrapped Pill is actually, they don't ship to the US. They don't sell these in the US officially because of the copyright or the patents that the Tilt has on a floating hydrometer, but you can buy these on eBay, which is how we got ours, and it's definitely a good piece of kit. The other issue I had with it though is, again, would not fit in the neck of a carboy, and there were some other drawbacks for the other two, which we'll cover here in a minute. Finally, we went for the Tilt Hydrometer because I really wanted to see what something in this price range, which is substantially more than our first two options, would do, and especially with it coming with an app, it being Bluetooth and not Wi-Fi. And so over the 2 years that we were going back and testing them, and I had upgraded my fermenter, so I was no longer using the glass carboy, so these could come back into play. But there were some drawbacks that I kind of continued to come up over and over again, which lent us to really using the Tilt Hydrometer. That kind of became our go-to. So much, in fact, that we ended up buying a second one so that we could have more than one batch going at once and be able to track all of our gravity readings. All right, so some of the reasons we continue to come back to the Tilt Hydrometer versus the other options. First of all, it is Bluetooth, as I mentioned before. I would have thought Wi-Fi would have been the real selling point because the range of Wi-Fi is so much more broad. It actually covers a much wider area than the Bluetooth. The problem that we ended up having is when I got my stainless fermenter to do pressure fermentations and I threw these guys in there, I could no longer get signal out of the fermenter. Now with the pill, I was able to get it inside if I held my phone or my computer really, really close. Then I could get a reading. But if I closed the climate-controlled fridge, signal completely dropped. As far as the iSpindle, as soon as I put it in the stainless vessel, its signal dropped out entirely. I could not get anything out of it. Now, there may be boosters and things you can do for it, but for me, that was too much of a pain. The Bluetooth ended up being the thing that won out because it will transmit through stainless steel. And Bluetooth, by its nature, has about a 20-foot, I think, around 20-foot range of signal. And so if you've got your fermenter sitting out, you can take a reading from just about anywhere. You throw it in a stainless fermenter, it's gonna drop your range to about 10 to 15 feet, so not horrible. You put that in a climate-controlled fermentation fridge, you got the liquid plus the stainless metal plus the fridge and the insulation, da-da-da-da. We ended up getting about 6 to 10 feet out of it, which was still enough. I could take my phone, go to the fridge, get a quick reading, and then move on with my day. It was actually very convenient, and that's why I kept going back to it. Speaking of using your phone, the Tilt app actually works really, really well. You can track on a graph if you are able to hook up like a Raspberry Pi or something to do real-time statistics with it. I never did that just because that was way too much for what I was wanting to do with it. They do make a Windows version of the software. It's Tilt for Windows, I believe. We'll have that linked below. It's open source, it's free, and it actually allows your computer, if it's got a Bluetooth card in it or a Bluetooth antenna in it, to communicate with your Tilt, and it will actually track throughout the entire fermentation process. Now, you do have to keep your computer on, but for me, my computer stays on a lot because it is running all sorts of other things that I do on the side. So having that be able to track my fermentation without having to go through a web interface, but just directly to the Tilt, was actually really, really cool. The other thing I really like is just the fact that it is a lot smaller than the other two options that we tested. Great for throwing it in a glass carboy. And this past year, we've actually been doing a lot of testing on small batch brewing systems. So we're talking 2-3 gallons. And if you're throwing one of these bad boys in those systems, this displaces a lot of liquid and can sometimes throw things off as far as levels and making sure stuff doesn't overflow or bubble over or ferment out too much. So the small size of the Tilt has been great for testing these systems because we can throw it in and make sure that these systems are doing what we're being told they're supposed to do. The other thing that was great with it is the setup on them is really plug and play. It's 5-10 minutes to get it set up with the app and you're up and running. The other two options do take a little bit more. There's a little bit more of a learning curve. Now, for a lot of brewers who are tinkerers and love that kind of stuff, this is definitely a great way to go. If you're just looking for a plug and play option that will work no matter what, this is kind of worth that premium price. All right, so as I mentioned before, the Tilt hydrometer definitely is a premium product. It comes in, you can find it now for about $135. We'll actually have a link below if you do want to purchase that from Amazon. There are sales and things that you can get these. They also have signal boosters that you can get to help boost that Bluetooth signal. They actually have a Pro model that is really supposed to have a powerful transmitter in it. Now, you're looking at close to $200 for that guy, and it is actually quite large. Probably not really good for a homebrew setup unless you're brewing, 15, 20, 25 gallons, then yeah, you could probably make that work with your system. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to the end of our video. Here is a bonus tip, and this is something I didn't think would be that important, but it actually makes a big difference when you have the Tilt or if you have multiple Tilts. So the battery casing in this is waterproof. It's got a nice little seal on it. It is smooth to prevent bacteria and things from taking hold and infecting your beer. The problem is it is so slick and smooth that it is very difficult to get a good grip on it, to either open it to change the battery, which doesn't happen very often because it's very power efficient, or even just to tighten up correctly. Tilt does make a little wrench. Actually has a bottle opener on the other side, so clearly they understand their target market. Has a nice little rubber gasket or ring, or I don't know what you call this on the inside, but it actually, you wouldn't think so, but it actually makes a huge difference in taking the lid off of these. You use it to get it loosened, and then you can take it off without problem. The first time I tried to change the battery on this thing, I don't know if it had been screwed down too tightly, but short of me getting out a pair of pliers, which I didn't want to do to scratch it, to get that lid off, I couldn't get it undone. This thing was a game changer. So if you have a Tilt or a number of Tilts, you can find those on Amazon for like $8. They are made by Tilt, so they are a name brand product. You're not gonna find some cheapy knockoff thing. This is invaluable for someone that has a Tilt to be able to swap out that battery and of course, open beers in a pinch. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching our video on our long-term review of the Tilt hydrometer. Let us know your thoughts below. If you've used any other options, do you prefer them over the Tilt? Tell us why. If you do use the Tilt or have a number of them, tell us kind of how you use it and what your experience has been. Or if you've got any tips and tricks and hacks on getting that lid off without actually using the wrench. Catch you later, my friends.